Hello, Pali people. I'm back, and today we are talking Bordeaux, baby. So we're doing another set of wines today. We've got 4 different wines that originated in the Bordeaux region of France. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about what that means, and then we can taste through these wines. So welcome back. I'm Aaron Walker, the winemaker for Pali Wine Company, as well as Tower 15 Wines, which 3 of these are bottled under, and Neighborhood Wines, which is what the Swell is now bottled under. So it's our 2 smaller labels that we produce. So there's Pali Wine Company is the main, the first brand or label, and then Tower 15 was added to the lineup in about 2010, and most recently Neighborhood Wines has been rolled out basically just the beginning of last year in 2020. And so we're gonna taste through these Tower 15 and Neighborhood Winery wines today. So hopefully you're able to stop into the tasting rooms that are local to you, and your tasting room associates would be more than happy and able to pour you a to-go flight so that you can taste these along with me at your convenience and in your place of choosing. Of course, these bottles are all available to purchase as well. And so we're gonna get right into it. We'll start off with the white, which is bottled under Tower 15 as just a straight Sauvignon Blanc. And so I was starting to talk about the Bordeaux region of France. Well, if you tuned into our previous video, we were discussing wines of the Rhone Valley in France. And so in France, they break up the different parts of the country into different growing regions, and each growing region has very specific grapes that they are legally allowed to produce there into wine. And Bordeaux, being one of the most famous regions of France for growing grapes, produces some of the most well-known grapes in the world, such as Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Sauvignon Blanc. So we're going to start with Sauvignon Blanc, which is one of the 2 main white grapes that are grown in the Bordeaux region in France, and the other one being Semillon. Sauvignon Blanc is definitely the more well-known of the 2. These particular Sauvignon Blanc grapes were grown at Leaf Ranch Vineyard, and that is in San Luis Obispo County. It's a vineyard that I've enjoyed working with for a number of years now. It also goes by the name of Alamo Creek Ranch, and it is tucked away. It's a bit of a drive to get out to. It's east of Santa Maria, about 10 or 15 miles east of there, and then you turn off the highway and you take a dirt road another 4 or 5 miles up into a little pocket canyon, and it has very dramatic cliffs and mountains and a lot of volcanic soils, and they're growing some beautiful Sauvignon Blanc grapes out there. And I've been very happy with the wines that we've made from that vineyard for a number of years now. This Sauvignon Blanc has really nice bright fruits, a little bit of the just a touch of that grassy quality that you can get in Sauvignon Blanc sometimes, and a little hint of berry, like gooseberry, again, typical in Sauvignon Blanc. Beautiful golden yellow color, a little bit of a straw, kind of rustic quality on the nose. Great acidity, really makes the wine lively and dance around on the palate. The acid cuts through all the way on the finish too. Gives you flavors of fresh lemon rinds, and there's a little bit of herbal quality to it, sage, maybe a little rosemary kind of thrown in there. Touch of pineapple and tropical fruit, mango. And completely dry. This is not a sweet wine. There's no residual sugar in this wine, so it's done in a dry style, and that comes across on the finish where it's not sweet at all. It's got that great acidity and a very clean finish. Excuse me. A wine that could be drank by itself. Certainly served cold on a warm day. It's also great food wine. This would pair very nicely with a first course. A thing like roasted peaches on a salad, maybe with some feta cheese and some candied walnuts or something along those lines. or a meat and cheese platter. This is a perfect cheese wine. Anyways, beautiful Sauvignon Blanc, barrel fermented and barrel aged using only neutral oak barrels and stainless steel barrels. So we're not using any new oak in this wine. There's not going to be any oaky flavor in the wine. We use a combination of these older neutral barrels as well as stainless steel barrels and allow the wine to age in those, and then we blend them together, and it provides, you know, no oak flavor and keeps the wines nice and fresh and bright in flavor. Next, we're going to move on to Merlot, and Merlot is a wine that has been around and well known in America for quite some time. One of the most popular red wines right after Cabernet Sauvignon, also native to the Bordeaux region of France. And in France, more often than not, these grapes are blended together when we're getting in, especially the red wines. They blend together the grapes to create a blended wine. It's very, very rare that you'll find a wine in Bordeaux that's produced 100% from one single variety. That's something you see done more outside of France and other parts of the world, California included. So this is from a small organically farmed vineyard. Well, so is the first wine, and this one, but organically farmed vineyard in San Ynez Valley in the Los Olivos district. The name of the vineyard is Gifts Vineyard, and it's an older vineyard. You can tell just by looking at the vines that the vines are at least 30 years old. Nice big, mature-looking trunks, and obviously they've been around for a while. Produces this beautiful, easy drinking Merlot, which we use as the base for Swell when we're putting this blend together. And so Merlot will bottle usually about 100 to 150 cases each year as a standalone variety under Tower 15. And then we'll also use a good portion of Merlot, of this same Merlot, as the base of Swell, which is usually about 50% Merlot, and which is the case here with this version today, the 2018. If I haven't mentioned, these are all 2018 vintage wines that we're tasting today. So, Gifts Vineyard Merlot, beautiful red blueberry, red and going towards black fruit qualities on the nose. You get like plum and cherry, boysenberry, a little bit of a cedar, kind of, you know, toasted oak quality. And then there's that plum and that almost like blueberry pie. A little bit of chocolate, like bitter, like dark chocolate. This is just what Merlot should be. You know, Merlot got a really bad rap a number of years ago by a certain movie that was filmed in a certain location, very, very close to where I'm standing here in Lompoc. And there was a very famous line that came from that movie disparaging Merlot, which actually created a huge drop in sales for Merlot in the United States and California, which has been very slow to recover, although it does seem like the Merlot is starting to shed that reputation. People are coming back to drinking Merlots. And, you know, there's part of a reason why that happened too. I could get into all that, but, you know, for a while, Merlot, some people say Merlot was being overproduced in California and there was too much bad Merlot being made into wine out there on the market. And so it got a bad reputation. But, you know, in its origins, Merlot from Bordeaux region of France is a world-class wine grape, red wine grape. It is some of the greatest wines in the world, some of the highest scoring, most sought after wines in the world coming from Bordeaux have a fair amount of Merlot in them. In fact, the irony at the end of the movie that I'm referencing is that the coveted bottle of wine that the main character opens at the end is actually a Bordeaux that is heavily made with Merlot grapes. And so if you're familiar with the movie I'm talking about, go back and rewatch it if you didn't catch that part at the end. Great. We're gonna move on. I'm rambling a little bit, as tends to happen, and I need to find a wine opener here. So, but anyways, get the Cab Sauv out and ready to go. That's what we're gonna jump into next. Cabernet Sauvignon. Interesting fact. Cabernet Sauvignon was crossbred between two other well-known, well, not as well-known, but two other Bordeaux varieties. The parent grapes to Cabernet Sauvignon are Cabernet Franc, which we're not going to get into today as a standalone variety. And the other parent grape to Cabernet Sauvignon is Sauvignon Blanc. And so they crossed Sauvignon Blanc with Cabernet Franc plants to create the Cabernet Sauvignon vine, which has become one of the most well-known types of wine in all of the world to this day, and definitely the most famous wine from the Bordeaux region. And so Cabernet Sauvignon, this version that we're bottling here, is from a wonderfully meticulously farmed vineyard in Paso Robles on the west side in the Willow Creek district, known as Old Oak Vineyard. It's very close neighbors to Saxon Vineyard and Dinner Vineyard. It's a vineyard that the winemaker for Tablas Creek, he takes most of the grapes off this vineyard for his own his personal label called Lone Madrone up in Paso Robles. And so we connected with this owner of this vineyard back in 2018, and this was our first vintage working with this vineyard. And we've been continuing to buy grapes ever since, and increasing the amount that we buy each year because it makes such a beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon. It's not overly, ripe. We're not going for a big over-the-top ripe flavor where you start to get kind of pruny, raisiny flavors. This is picked at just the optimum ripeness for us, usually about 25 bricks or so, 26 bricks. So it's starting to get a little bit on the ripe side, but not overly done. And that shows in the wine. You get these beautiful chocolate and blackberry, currant flavors going on. Kind of leathery and chalky on the palate. There's some really nice tannins. A bit more of that blackberry flavor coming through. Some anise, like black licorice type flavors as well. And just very, very nice drinking Cabernet Sauvignon that's not overbearing. It's a dry wine. It's not sweet. There's no residual sugar here either. It has those sweeter flavors, those that I was referencing. Aged in American and French oak. Although we tried to use a very little amount of new oak in these wines when we bottle as straight varieties. And so it's going to be less than 20% new oak in these wines, aged for about 18 months, both these wines, before bottling. Yum, always a favorite. Cabernet Sauvignon obviously pairs very well with red meats. Everybody knows that. A nicely spiced pork cooked on the grill, like a tenderloin, that would be great. Trying to think of some alternative pairings. Sometimes we pair Cabernet Sauvignon with desserts, especially something that's got a lot of berries, dark berries, blackberries. And then Swell is going to be the last wine, and this is something we've been making for a number of years. At least about 10 years now. We've been putting out a wine called Swell, and it's always been a Bordeaux style blend, meaning a blend of these grapes that I've been discussing, as well as a couple others I haven't even touched on. And this used to be bottled under our Tower 15 label. It's now, starting with this vintage 2018, transitioning to being bottled under the Neighborhood Wines collection. And so this is now one of the wines that we put out as a neighborhood winery red blend. So for us, it's Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, which make up about 50% of the blend. And then the balance is going to be, in this vintage, it's Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc. And I mentioned Cabernet Franc earlier when we were talking about Cabernet Sauvignon and how it was created from that grape and Sauvignon Blanc. The Petit Verdot is the other grape I haven't mentioned. Sometimes we bottle that as a standalone wine, but often it's used strictly just for blending because it can be very tannic and a little bit harsh, and so sometimes needs a little blending to calm it down. So this is a beautiful all-around red wine. It's something you can open up and drink with friends or by yourself in front of a good Netflix movie. Goes well with pizza, pasta, red meat dishes for sure. And everything goes with pork, in my opinion. So cook it with some cooked pork and open this. But beautiful red wine. I've used it in braised short rib dishes, reduced it down. It makes a great sauce. But generally the type of red wine that people are looking for when they want a good red blend. So that's about going to do it today. I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit about Bordeaux wines. Hope to see you soon in our tasting rooms. Pali for the people.